Hey, I'm Ernesto, I make tech and breaks, and today we're gonna talk about 5 plugins that will make your bass thick. Roll the intro. I don't have an intro. We're gonna start with a curveball, because we're starting with an EQ, and that's the Quake Tech EQ. Or if you have waves, it's Quake Tech, which I guess it's a way of getting over copyrights. Let's get into it. I've selected a pretty good 808 already. Let's give it a listen. But what we're gonna do with the Quake Tech EQ, it's increase its fullness. So when you drop your tracks in the club, everything will rumble. We do this by using a spectrum analyzer and checking where the main frequency of the sub is. This thing is around a G. Knowing this, what we do is check which frequency in this EQ is closest to it. That would be 60. And then we're gonna push the same amount of dBs that we're gonna cut. What this is gonna do is give us fullness without the mud. Let's check out how this sounds. Now, if you're at home with your sub or listening on headphones, you would have definitely realized how big of a change this was. And when you slap a master on it, it's twice as much. At number 4, we have Ableton Live Saturator. Usually very overlooked, but a very good weapon to get your 808s pumping. Surprisingly, the Ableton Live Saturator is a favorite plugin of many well-renowned bass producers, from Christian Martin to Lenny Kaiser. And I'm gonna show you why. When you have a clean 808, you won't get much above 200 Hz. But with the correct use of the Ableton Live Saturator, you'll make sure your tracks pop from the speakers at a supermarket to a club. At number 3, we have the famous Decapitator. If you're a tech house head and you don't put Decapitator on every damn channel, are you even making tech house?
The Sound Toys Decapitator, because this will just make it fatter. The Sound Toys Decapitator, I use it on everything.
Let's see what this thing actually does. The Decapitator has been used and overused in thousands of tracks, but you can still get some very special sounds from it. Let's check out what I've done with it here. Regular 808, now using the dark drive on Punish, 50% wet, and I brighten up the tone a little bit, just so we get those high frequencies in there. You hear that weird growl around 600 Hz? That's the way I like to use the Decapitator. And you can definitely add a little flair to those bass hits, especially in those bass tracks that have minimal elements. At number 2, we have one of my favorites. It's called the Vintage Warmer. It's a tape emulator that lets you get that analog crisp, even though it's, it's pretty fake, but analog crisp. Right now, I'm using the multi-band compression limiter Lite with a little bit of changes. Let's see how this goes. As you can hear, the sub lingers and you get those higher frequencies without that over crunch that you get from plugins like the Decapitator. There's a small trick that I'm gonna teach you right now, is if you hit Vintage Warmer right here, you go back and you can increase the saturation on the mids and the highs without increasing it on the lows. We can also decrease the speed of the tape to get a little more saturation and a little more crunch. Beautiful. At number 1, we have the famous R-Bass. Everybody talks about it, nobody knows how to use it. I'm gonna teach you how to do it right now. And now we get to number 1, Waves R-Bass. One of the best plugins out there, specifically designed to multiply your main frequency upwards on the spectrum. The first thing you have to do is find your main frequency, which in our case was G49, and type it in right there. After that, you'll see your bass go from this to this. Now it's crazy how full and rich this bass has become. If you need to do different notes, and what you do is you automate the frequency right here. And that way, every time it hits, it's pushing every note up every part of the speaker. So that was 5 plugins that will make your bass thick. What did you think of the list? Did I miss any? Do you have your own list? Be sure to leave it down below. If you like it, leave a like. If you want more content like this, subscribe. And if there are any kind of videos that you would like, let me know. Be sure to check out my music. I'm E.R.N.E.S.To's beats everywhere. Everything will be linked down below. Take care.